Priya was only 24 when motherhood arrived in her life for the second time, not as a blessing celebrated by her home, but as a reason for it to break apart. She lived in a modest rented house on the outskirts of the city, a place she once believed would grow warmer with laughter and love. The walls were thin, the furniture simple, but Priya had filled the space with hope. Every morning she woke before the sun, cooked breakfast, packed her husband's lunch, and then tended to her little daughter, Mira, whose tiny fingers clutched her dupatta like it was the safest place in the world. Her husband, Raghav, had once smiled at that sight, but smiles fade when pride becomes heavier than love. From the day Priya conceived again, Raghav's expectations were clear. This time, it must be a boy, he said casually at first, as if stating a preference for tea or coffee. Priya laughed nervously. A healthy child is enough. Raghav didn't laugh back. In his family, sons were legacy. Sons carried names forward, lit funeral pyres, inherited land. Daughters were burdens, temporary guests who would one day belong to another house. His mother reminded Priya of this every chance she got. "You already gave us a girl," she would say, clicking her tongue. "God should balance things now." Priya bore it silently. She spoke to the life growing inside her with tenderness, promising love regardless of gender. At night, she placed Raghav's hand on her belly, hoping connection would soften him, but distance had already begun. Doctor visits became arguments. Raghav avoided discussions, avoided eye contact. When relatives asked about preparations, he spoke only of his son's future, his school, his name, his dreams. Priya felt invisible. The day of delivery arrived with heavy rain and heavier silence. Mira was sent to a neighbor's house. Raghav drove Priya to the hospital without a word. Hours passed in pain and prayer until finally, the cry of a newborn filled the room. "It's a girl," the nurse said gently. Placing the baby on Priya's chest, Priya wept not from disappointment, but from overwhelming love. The baby's face was soft, her grip strong. She looked perfect. Raghav stood frozen. He didn't come closer. He didn't touch the child. He didn't meet Priya's eyes. "She's fine," Priya whispered, trying to bridge the gap. "She's healthy." Raghav turned and walked out of the room. That was the moment Priya felt something snap, not loudly, but deeply. He didn't return that night or the next. On the third day, his mother came instead. "You should stay with your parents," the woman said coldly. "Raghav needs time." "Time for what?" Priya asked, her voice trembling as she held her newborn. To accept reality, she replied, "You failed to give him a son." The word "failed" burned. When Priya was discharged, no one came to take her home. She returned on her own, carrying her child in one arm and her shattered heart in the other. Raghav's cupboard was empty, his clothes gone, his documents missing, his presence erased. On the table lay a single note. "I wanted a son. I can't live like this." That was all. No apology, no responsibility, no goodbye. Priya collapsed onto the floor, clutching her daughters as sobs tore through her chest. Mira cried, sensing the pain. The newborn slept, unaware that her arrival had destroyed a marriage. Neighbors whispered. Relatives advised silence. Society judged quietly but sharply. A woman with 2 daughters, they said. What did she expect? Priya's parents took her in reluctantly. Their home was small, their resources limited, their disappointment obvious. "You should have tried harder," her father muttered one night. "Men don't leave for no reason." Those words hurt more than Raghav's absence. Nights became long and heavy. Priya stared at the ceiling while her daughters slept beside her, wondering how love had turned into abandonment so easily. But somewhere between exhaustion and despair, something began to change. When Priya looked at her daughter's 2 girls, the world had already decided were lesser. She felt a fierce, unfamiliar strength rise within her. "If the world won't stand for us," she whispered, "I will." Raghav believed leaving was the end of the story. For Priya, it was only the beginning. Priya did not become strong overnight. Strength, she learned, did not arrive like a miracle. It was built slowly between sleepless nights, unpaid bills, and the quiet humiliation of asking for help. Her parents' house was cramped. Priya shared one small room with her daughters. Mira slept curled against her side, while the newborn whom Priya named Anaya, meaning one who cannot be defeated, lay in a makeshift cradle beside the bed. Every morning, Priya woke before dawn. She cooked. She cleaned. She fed her children, and then she listened to her mother's sighs. Two neighbors gossip. Two relatives who spoke as if she weren't in the room. Poor girl, they said. Left with two daughters. Who will marry her now? She should adjust. Maybe Raghav will return if she apologizes. Priya kept her eyes down and her mouth shut. But inside, something hardened. One afternoon while folding clothes, she found her old college notebook tucked away in a bag. She had once been a bright student, top of her class in commerce. But marriage had ended her education early. She traced the pages slowly. I was capable once, she thought. I still am. That night, while rocking Anaya to sleep, Priya made a decision she did not announce. She would no longer wait to be chosen. She began small. A neighbor needed help with bookkeeping for her tailoring shop. Priya offered to manage accounts for a small monthly fee. Another woman asked her to teach basic math to her son. Word spread quietly. Priya worked while her daughters slept. She studied again online courses, borrowed books, notes scribbled by torchlight during power cuts. Her eyes burned, her back ached, but her mind felt alive for the first time in years. Her parents noticed the change. "You'll tire yourself," her mother warned. "You should think about remarriage," her father added. Priya nodded politely and kept going. Money began to trickle in. Not much, but enough. Enough to buy better milk for Anaya, enough to buy storybooks for Neera, enough to feel dignity return. Months passed. One evening, Priya received a call she hadn't expected. It was Raghav. She stared at the screen, her heart pounding not with love, but with memory. She answered calmly. "I heard you're working now," he said, his tone oddly casual. "Good. You should send money for Mira's school. She is still my responsibility." Priya laughed softly. "You left," she replied. "Responsibility left with you." There was a pause. "You think you can survive without me?" He scoffed. "I already am," she said, and ended the call. That night, Priya cried, not from pain but from release. She had spoken without fear. Her work grew. A small accounting firm hired her part-time. She proved herself quickly efficient, intelligent, precise. Within a year, she was promoted to a full-time role. For the first time, Priya rented her own apartment. It was small, but it was hers. She painted the walls light yellow. She hung her daughter's drawings proudly. She placed a framed quote near the door. "A woman becomes dangerous when she stops asking for permission." Raghav watched from afar. He heard about her job, her independence, her refusal to come back. His pride burned. One evening, he visited unannounced. Priya opened the door. Surprised, but steady. "You look different," he said, scanning the apartment. "So do you," she replied, noticing the exhaustion behind his arrogance. "You could still fix this," he said. "Give me another chance." "A son can still leave," Priya interrupted. He stared at her. "You are nothing without me." Priya stepped closer, her voice calm and controlled. "I was nothing with you." She closed the door. That was the moment Raghav realized something terrifying. Priya no longer needed him, and a woman who no longer needs approval. Is a woman impossible to control? Far away, Anaya took her first steps. Mira learned to read full sentences. Priya watched them and smiled. She was not just surviving anymore. She was preparing, because success, she knew now, was not just freedom. It was the sharpest revenge of all. By the time Anaya turned 3, Priya was no longer invisible. Her name began appearing on reports, emails, and finally on doors. Priya Sharma, financial consultant. The promotion came quietly, without celebration. No applause. No flowers. Just an official letter and a new desk near the window. But when Priya sat there on her first day, sunlight spilling across her hands, she felt something she had never been allowed to feel before: pride. She had earned it alone. Her days were tightly packed: in office meetings, client calls, school runs, bedtime stories. She woke up early and slept late, but her exhaustion carried purpose. Mira started asking questions about numbers and money. Anaya followed her everywhere, copying her movements like a tiny shadow. "You work too much," people said. Priya smiled. "I'm building something." That something soon took shape. While working with small businesses, Priya noticed a pattern. Many women, especially single mothers, were running home-based ventures, but failing due to poor financial planning. They had talent, but no guidance. An idea sparked. Priya began offering free weekend workshops. Just a few women at first, sitting on floor mats, notebooks in hand. She taught budgeting, savings, pricing, and basic accounting. Word spread faster than she expected. Soon, the room was full. Local newspapers noticed. A short article followed. "Single mother empowers women through financial literacy." Raghav saw it by accident. Printed on cheap newsprint at a tea stall. He read the headline twice. The photograph showed Priya standing confidently. Hair tied back, eyes steady. She looked nothing like the broken woman he had abandoned. People at the stall spoke her name with respect. "That's strength." One man said. "2 daughters, no husband, Dan, still rising." Another added. Raghav folded the paper, his hands shaking. His own life had not gone as planned. The second marriage, his family arranged, ended badly. The woman left within months when his temper and bitterness surfaced. His job was unstable. Debt had crept in quietly, and there was no son, no legacy. Meanwhile, Priya's success continued. A nonprofit organization partnered with her workshops. Funding arrived. Media interviews followed. She began traveling to other cities, speaking about gender bias and economic independence. During one panel discussion, a moderator asked, "What motivated you to start this journey?" Priya paused. "My daughters," she said. "I want them to grow up knowing they were never the reason someone failed. They are the reason I succeeded." The audience stood. The clip went viral. Raghav couldn't escape it. Relatives called him now not to praise, but to question. "She's doing so well," they said. "Why did you leave such a woman?" People talk. His mother grew silent. The same society that once justified his cruelty now judged him. One evening, Raghav showed up again. This time, Priya didn't look surprised. "I'm struggling," he said, his voice lower than before. "I made mistakes." Priya listened quietly. "I thought sons bring respect," he continued. "But everyone respects you now." Priya looked at him, really looked. A man who had confused dominance with strength. "You didn't want children," she said. "You wanted control?" His face hardened. "I want to see them," he said. "They're my daughters." Priya's answer was immediate. "You lost that right the day you walked away." "Ha!" he tried to argue. She stood firm. The law, the records, the years of abandonment, everything stood on her side. When he left, it wasn't in anger. It was in defeat. Later that night, Priya sat between Mira and Anaya, reading them a story. "Ammi," Mira asked softly, "why don't we have a father like others?" Priya closed the book and kissed her forehead. "Because sometimes," she said gently, "the bravest families are built by one strong parent." Outside, the city buzzed with life. Inside, Priya felt complete. Raghav had wanted a son to prove his worth. Priya had raised 2 daughters who would redefine it, and the world was finally watching. Time has a way of choosing sides. By the time Mira turned 10 and Anaya 7, Priya's life had settled into something solid and unshakable. The chaos of survival was gone. In its place stood stability, purpose, and a quiet confidence that did not need validation. Her initiative had grown into a registered gain financial freedom for women. So what began on floor mats had turned into classrooms. What began with whispers had turned into recognition. Government departments partnered with her. Universities invited her to speak. Awards arrived, not ones she chased, but ones that found her. Each time she stood on a stage, Priya remembered the woman who had been left with 2 daughters and a broken heart. She carried her with her always. Raghav's life, meanwhile, continued to unravel. Debt collectors visited. His health declined. Friends stopped answering calls. The family that once praised his authority now treated him like an embarrassment. One day, he heard something that finally broke. Meera had won a state-level academic award. Anaya had been selected for a national science camp, and Priya's abandoned wife was named among the top 50 social leaders of the year. His name appeared nowhere. That evening, he came one last time. Priya opened the door calmly. "I don't want money," he said. "I don't want forgiveness. I just want acknowledgement." Priya looked at him silently for a long moment. Then she spoke, not with anger, not with pride, but with finality. "You taught me something valuable," she said. "You taught me that love with conditions is not love at all." She stepped aside and pointed to the living room wall. Photographs lined it. Her daughter's achievements, their smiles, their growth. "This," she said, "is my answer." Raghav's shoulders slumped. He left without another word. Priya watched the door close and felt nothing, no victory. No bitterness, just peace. That night, she sat with her daughters under the soft glow of a lamp. Anaya asked, "What is revenge?" Priya smiled. "Revenge is when someone tries to break you," she said. "And you build something so beautiful that their cruelty becomes meaningless." Years later, Meera would study economics. Anaya would become an engineer. They would grow up knowing that their existence was never a mistake. And Priya, once abandoned, once blamed, would remain a living answer to every man who believed a woman's worth decided by the gender of her child. Her revenge was not destruction. It was legacy.